Hi, this is Michael Uslan. You're listening to Batman on Film.
I'm vengeance.
I have given a name to my pain.
The Batman.
Always waiting for some Batman to save you.
It's simple. We kill the Bat of Gotham. I'm Batman.
Hey now, welcome to episode number 26 of the Batman on Film Social Hour. This is a audio only version. At some point, Pete, we're gonna get spruced up a bit. Kind of
you got to give me more heads up. You can't
look at me.
You're like, all right, you ready to go? Let's record. I'm like, when? You're like,
That's
2 minutes.
Yes.
Like, can I get out of bed first?
Well, because I knew it was going to be audio only. So, and you're an hour ahead of me, man. I'm thinking, okay, he's got to be up by now. Come on. So, but we're going to do it at some point because I got my new light set up. I want to try it out. I'll just show
Are you
you.
getting fancy? Oh, look at this ring light. I can see everything.
Yeah, you can't see it. Well, just envision it. Okay, this is I'm painting a picture for you out there if you're listening. This is Jett, Ramey, the founder of Batman on Film, by the way, and I'm joined by senior Batman on Film contributor Peter Verra of Straight Outta Gotham fame,
AKA
and
the new
yes, the pride the pride of New Jersey.
That's right.
With me today. The pride of, not the champion of Long Island, the pride of New Jersey.
That title is held for greater men.
It is, absolutely. All right. So we're going to talk a little Batman on Film, heavy centric type stuff, specifically Commissioner Gordon or Sergeant Gordon or Lieutenant Gordon or Captain Gordon, whatever version it's going to be. And
Jimbo.
Either the Batman and Batgirl now. So let's start with Batgirl. Who was it? Deadline broke this story that J.K. Simmons was a Deadline. I want to get proper.
It was one of the trades.
Trade.
I
Okay.
don't remember who actually broke it, but it was a trade.
I think it's Deadline. Anyway, I want to give proper credit. I think Deadline. So reported that J.K. Simmons was in talks to reprise his role as Commissioner Gordon in the upcoming HBO Max Batgirl movie. So what were your thoughts initially hearing that? Because the talk, they did say they were going to cast Gordon. There was
a casting call that went out for Gordon.
Yeah, and it was going to be it's going to be an important role in the movie. And I assumed they were going to recast because that was the scuttlebutt. And
I did too.
You
I was surprised
because there was a casting call, and
there was that's what led me to think everything was going to change. Like I thought, JK was, and that's not, unfamiliar. Like, someone comes into a franchise like this and the movie doesn't take off and things get recast. Like we saw it with George Clooney. He never, he signed a 4 film deal. Well, he only made
whatever.
one.
Yeah.
It happens. That's the business of Hollywood. If something doesn't turn out the way the studio wants, they move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
The what have you done for me lately mentality. In terms of what it can mean for continuity, I don't really know, because could this be J. Jonah Jameson Part 2? Could JK just be playing?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Yeah, you read my mind there. So yeah.
Or is this just something like contract obligations where, they did the casting call. They didn't really see anyone who stuck out, but then someone said, hey, look, we still got JK for how many films? And, I'm sure the directors were like, well, he's a great actor. Well, how can we say no to JK? And if he wants to return, we're more than open to it. So I don't know. This is one of those things where fans like to, get worked up and they like to create things in their heads. But if you're just patient enough and wait until the film comes, you'll find out where this movie takes place in. It would
be funny, kind of ironic if it was a J. Jonah Jameson deal where he's playing Gordon, but not the Gordon he played in, the two Snyder movies. So
you got maybe he's got like dark hair or something. I don't know. Maybe he's got a goatee. Slight change because he looked great as Gordon in the little bit that we saw him in the movie, and it was
It's
kind of
like Judi Dench and the Bond. She played
M.
M. Yes, she played M in 2 different versions of James Bond. You know.
Yeah,
I don't care. I mean, I don't.
I don't either.
Whatever.
You can't turn down talent. You know, like. So J.K.'s a great actor, and you know, I remember when the Jameson thing happened, I was kind of bummed out. I was like, I've already seen his Jameson. Let's give somebody else a shot. But you know, now I don't even know what the rules are anymore for anything. So if there were ever any rules, but it'll be interesting to see what this movie's like. I'm very curious. I'm looking forward to some kind of photo at some point to maybe get because you could get, you know, if the suits look totally different, you know, you could tell it would if it fits in a world or not, right? If this is like more of an armored thing, you'd be like, okay, this doesn't really fit with like the Batfleck aesthetic. Maybe this isn't in that continuity. I don't know. And then who knows what happens? Maybe this is like, it's like we've heard these rumors about the Flash movie, right? Where like the Flash movie is part Batman Beyond, part Flashpoint, and in the end, things are going to be different. Well, what if the things are going to be different spawns out of that Flash movie is Batgirl, where it's some kind of weird hybrid of you've got Batfleck Gordon and Alfred, you've got Keaton and Batgirl, and like this Batman Beyond type deal. Like I don't know. Who knows what reality or what the multiverse has in store for us?
Let's say that's the case, because I was going to bring that up, because you assume because it's J.K. Simmons and he had played Gordon before, then then he is going to be that him playing Gordon is going to be something that survives the Flash, and so can he? And if the rumors are correct, they're really, I say rumor, I mean, this is stuff that's been reported by trades, and that Warner Brothers wanted, I mean, one of the things was getting Keaton on was they wanted him for more things than just the Flash. So Keaton's Batman after the Flash and during the Flash, and he remains, and they are existing technically in the same cinematic universe. Can J.K. Simmons Gordon coexist with Keaton's Batman, even though in Batman '89 and all 4 of the Burton Schumacher films,
Pat Hingle.
Gordon was Pat Hingle, you know, because I mean, look at comic book type stuff. I mean, it doesn't really.
I mean, that's about as comic book as you can get. I mean, that's straight up out of
that, you know, when the timeline is reset, then boom, he's Gordon. He has a relationship with Keaton's Batman, and it would make them contemporaries. It wouldn't be Gordon being older than
And you saw something
Bruce.
like this on the CW. They had their Flashpoint or whatever. Their I think it was like season 6 where everything kind of merged together. Their Crisis on Infinite Earth. So like you've seen the Flash, who seems to be the character who does these things, reset timelines and kind of I guess restore balance in the multiverse. So it'll be interesting to see. It's funny because JK getting cast caught a lot of people's attention, obviously, and everyone was all like, "Okay, cool, you know, Batfleck back." But I'm interested to see what happens if this is J. Jonah Jameson 2.0, and he's not that same Gordon. The backlash this is all going to cause because everyone got really hyped up for something else.
Well, it went like this, Pete. Here's how it went. You know, they cast Leslie Grace, and because she is a Dominican American and identifies as being both Latino and Afro-Latino, I guess, is what I think I read a quote that she said, or how she described herself. Because she's straight up American. I'm just talking about her, you know, her
ethnicity,
ancestry, whatever.
Background,
So at first it was, it's going to be connected to the Batman because she's.
That's happened. Yes.
Because they assumed, a lot of people assumed she was just African American. But she's not just African American. She's in the Heights playing a Latino character, and she identifies as Latino. And her last name is she has a Latino surname. Grace is her middle name, so it's connected to Batman.
What is her last name?
Ramirez, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. And so. Then it was she's going to be Jeffrey Wright's Gordon's daughter, and it's going to connect to the Batman. Yes, there we go.
And then
now.
It's J.K. Simmons, and now it's connected to the Snyderverse.
As soon as it's J.K. Simmons, Batfleck is back, baby. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I look,
And the whole time, Affleck is not given an F because he's grabbing J-Lo's ass and getting posted on Instagram and converted.
well, there's nothing wrong with that.
Or carrying
Let's
out.
just-
No, I'm not. But hey, I am not.
We all love J-Lo around here.
Absolutely not. But you know,
And we all know how much I love the Bronx. Like the Bronx is special to me,
Yeah.
so therefore J-Lo is special to me as well.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I say this all the time. The pre-production, the fan speculation, to me, it's a great experience. The what if, right? We're all excited about the Marvel what if show, but this literally is it. Like, what if they did this? What if they interpreted that? And that's cool, but it goes back to like, don't write the movie in your head type deal.
Mm-hmm.
Don't associate everything with this, and this. Like, you could speculate, but then when it doesn't come out to be true, don't get all upset. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting seeing, fan bases interact and them going from one level of excitement to another. But I'm honestly at the point where like continuity, Fox it for me. Give me Fox X-Men. I don't care. Just make the movie. I don't care if it connects to this. I don't care if it connected to that. I don't care if it has something connected to it 20 films from now. I just make the movie, make it a good movie, make it an entertaining movie. That's all I care about at this point. If it's connected, great. Because look, Batman and Robin's not connected to anything as far as we know. Superman's mentioned. As far as I know, that is the Brandon Routh, Christopher Reeve Superman in my head, like in my fan continuity. But it doesn't make me hate the movie anymore because they don't show up. I hate the movie because of what it actually is. So just make the movie, make it good, and that's what it is. That's the bottom line.
okay, I'm with you. Look, I was always thought that J.K. Simmons was great casting for that older, the white-haired, big mustache, horn rimmed glasses, Gordon. The
the
70s.
Tim Sale Gordon.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, from Long Halloween. So bring it on. And I don't care, at all.
And I want to see this guy in this role. Like he is one of the great actors of my generation. I fell in love with him when I first saw him on Oz as Schillinger. He was one of the I think he was like the Nazi leader of that cell block. Like he was just. And he was a great antagonist, and he was pure evil, and you really hated this guy. Like, I really hated. It took me a long time to really appreciate J.K. Simmons because I just saw him as Schillinger. I see this racist Aryan guy, and he's such a fantastic actor to get absorbed into that, and casting him as Gordon is a no-brainer, and it's a shame for us as fans that we don't get more of him. Like, I don't want to see more of Gordon in a Justice League movie. I want to see more of Gordon in a Batman movie to explore
Batman world,
important things. I want to see him. I want to see him arguing with Bullock. Like, sure, we saw him talk with Christmas Allen. That's cool. That's a cool nod for comic book fans. But Montoya and like just the whole precinct vibe, Foley, if we can get something like that, it'd be really cool. And that's stuff that Nolan did really well. But he didn't interpret it like the other side characters as much as I would have wanted to. Again, like the fanboy in me, like I see Wirtz and it's like I want him to be Harvey Bullock, even though he's corrupt and Bullock was corrupt. And Ramirez, you want her to be Montoya, but they're not. And then the only person from the comics is Foley. So it's interesting. Nolan kind of did it. But these are things I would like to see more. And that's kind of why I'm kind of excited for the GCPD HBO Max show.
Yeah.
For me, it's great because I'm getting a lot, well, not just me, but for all of us Batman fans, like we're going to get Jeffrey Wright in that police show, right? And now
he's got to be.
He's going to cameo at some point. Like he's an HBO guy to begin with, right? So
yes.
HBO, Warner Brother, he's an in-house guy. And then you're getting possibly JK returning in Batgirl. This is a win-win for all of us, to be honest. Like we're getting some really great Gordon stuff here. And, going back to, 89, Gordon was kind of a joke. Like, he was played a little bit more seriously.
In 89, he was.
It's good.
But it went off the rail. It went off the rails, after that.
Burton kind of.
All it was in return was thanks for saving the day, Batman.
The circus gang is back,
Yeah.
And so that was interesting. And then, the Gary Oldman Gordon is just perfect in everything.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. Yeah.
And 66's Gordon was okay. It wasn't bad. It was good for what it was. It
never. Yeah. It wasn't what it was what it was with Gordon at that time, but not what the Batman-Gordon relationship evolved into through the 70s, 80s, and then what we have today, you know? So, yeah, I mean, hey, bring it on, and we'll see how it all plans out. And it wouldn't bother me, with all due respect to the late, great Pat Hingle, it wouldn't bother me if Keaton's older Batman Bruce Wayne interacted with J.K. Simmons' older
I'll take it a step further.
Gordon,
like, respect to Michael Goff. I'll take more of Jeremy Irons, Alfred, if they somehow merge the universes together. That's another character who I think I would love to see more of, or I know I would love to see more of, is just that actor.
Yeah, there hasn't been a bad. Yeah.
To think about it, like, we as fans, we've never gotten a bad casting pretty much for any of these guys outside of Arnold, right? Like, and maybe Tommy Lee Jones. So you got two out of how many movies?
And really, you know what? I mean, casting wise, pretty good casting.
You don't
portrayal?
see Tommy Lee Jones doing that. Yeah.
Yes.
But Tommy Lee Jones is still an A-list actor at that time.
Yes.
And Arnold
the betrayal in the films. Yeah. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger could have done a heck of a job in as a quote unquote serious Victor Freeze, but that's not what they.
I think he could have pulled a direction. That's not what Joel was told to do. It's not what Joel was hired to do. So it is what it is.
It is. Yeah. So I'm with you. All right, we're going to keep on on the Gordon train and talk about the other Commissioner Gordon. Well, I don't know. What is he? I think in the only synopsis we've got from the Batman is Jeffrey Wright is playing GCPD's Jim Gordon. So I'm assuming he's not. He's not Commissioner Gordon, because isn't there an actor in the Batman playing the police commissioner of Gotham?
There's a large man with a beard, not me, at a podium in that trailer, and Gordon is like off to his left. So I would imagine that man is
I'm pretty
the chief
sure
of police, the commissioner, or someone who has to deal with press hearings. Well, I feel like Gordon is just kind of an officer, maybe lieutenant. So I don't know what the rankings are. So
that's my part. Yeah, we don't know. We'll just say he's not Commissioner Gordon yet. Jeffrey Wright's.
But he doesn't look like a beat cop either. Like when we see him in Begins, he's just, he's wearing his blues,
Yeah.
His street blues, I think they called them.
Yeah.
So
detective. He's a detective.
He's probably detective. Yeah. He's wearing kind of business casual, maybe. Looks like he's wearing a nice pair of slacks, a button down and a tie, something like that.
Yeah.
His badge isn't exposed. He's a detective. So
I'm looking here. Let's see. Yes, Alex Ferns is playing Commissioner Pete Savage in the Batman.
Pete Savage. Is that now? I don't recall that. Is that a character from the books, or is that?
I am not sure. That's a question.
We all know Loeb is the famous commissioner before Gordon,
but he is Commissioner Pete Savage. So yes, yeah. So he's Jeffrey Wright is not the chief of police. So speaking of which, that's where we're going to get into. Okay, so Jeffrey Wright did an interview with comicbook.com for something new he's doing. Is it?
I believe he was being.
Is it What If?
Brandon Davis of comicbook.com for Marvel's. We mentioned earlier. What If he's playing
What
the
If?
Watcher.
Okay. Okay.
Or voicing the Watcher because it's animated.
So he had some. In course, they asked him about the Batman, and he had some pretty good stuff, I thought, and I'll read some of his quotes, and then we'll get your take, and we'll discuss. He talked about working with Pattinson, which goes to the Batman Gordon thing. I love the dynamic that Rob and I were able to create. I'm really excited for people to see what he does with this, and I thought this was interesting. He creates three distinct people. There's Rob, there's Bruce Wayne, and there's the Batman, and they're each distinct. It's really cool, coming at you next spring. So I guess he's, you've seen Pattinson in interviews, and he comes off as, a witty, laughs and looks like, he's enjoying what he's doing, and he's got a sense of humor, and he likes to do bits and mess with people and interviews and stuff, like the whole oh, I'm not working now, they gave me one dumbbell.
He comes off as aloof.
Yeah, and he's purely trolling and doing a bit, and so for him, I guess he goes into Bruce Wayne mode, and Bruce Wayne has got this specific personality, which we'll eventually get to, and then of course there's the Batman, and both. What I think is going to be cool, and I'm just speculating, is that we're not seeing fully formed Bruce Wayne, or at least the persona, the public Bruce Wayne that he ends up being. The aloof playboy. No way.
We're going to see the evolution of both Batman and Bruce Wayne in this.
And then because Bruce Wayne, the private Bruce Wayne, is always the private Bruce Wayne, and he probably grows from that, from being something a little bit off, and he's got anger issues and all kind of, this is just me, talking.
I really like that though, because it seems like he has, Pattinson, the type of personality for this role where he like I feel like when Affleck was cast, they had to warn him, and they said, "Hey, look, Twitter's going to be crazy. Don't check it out." And there was all the you remember, no one wanted him to have this role back in 2013.
No, I did. I did for a long time. Yes, sir. I was that.
We all know about you. We all know about you. Don't try to backtrack and. We all know about you.
And everybody.
But he
had a
seems
meltdown.
to be between the not working out and just the interviews, and like you said, he's kind of aloof, and he seems to have the personality to be like, I'm going to have fun with this. And but he knows, when action, he goes into full on method mode. So I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see this Gordon. I haven't been the first picture of the Oldman Gordon. Like, this is because that was like, the Dark Knight trilogy was probably when I really start to remember a lot of this stuff in terms of releasing photos and hype engine. Because like Batman and Robin was 97. I was 9 years. So like, I don't remember anything for that. So like, I remember the first image.
Batman and Robin should have been right up your alley when it came out, huh?
Oh, it was. I loved it. 100%. Like, it's not even a question. Like, if you asked me in 1997 if Batman and Robin was good, I mean, when Arnold said, "Take 2 of these and call me in the morning," that's a classic Doctor line. Like, this movie's brilliant. Epic writing for a 9-year-old boy. But like, I remember that first picture of Oldman, and I was like, oh wow, this looks straight out of Year One. And then I see this first picture, I see that trailer, and I was like, this, I can't pinpoint this, but like, he's just such a good actor where it's like, oh man, then he, you watch a trailer and you hear him deliver his lines, and it's just like the treble in his voice, as he's speaking to Batman, it's very interesting. And Jeffrey Wright's voice is really going to draw a lot of people into this. And that's why he was obviously cast as the Watcher, as with this original interview. Because his voice is so deep and gravelly, and I can't wait to experience what he has in store for us.
Me either. Okay, this is on working with Matt Reeves and the rest of the cast crew. We made this film together. Rob, Zoe, Colin, and John Turturro, all of us working under Matt Reeves' direction.
Yeah.
And someone pointed out he didn't mention Dano, and I was like, like there was something to it. I was just waiting for some shit outlet to pick, to pick that up. Oops.
Ooh, a little BOF jingle.
That was a commercial. I lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
No Dano. He didn't mention Dano.
Oh yeah, anyway, I can just see some outlet, clickbait making
Pattinson and Dano feuding on the set of Batman.
Jeffrey Wright does not like Paul Dano, and his job, his performance must be crap because he didn't mention him, but he mentions them and talk about working under Matt Reeves' direction, create these characters in a Gotham that was specific to our film. And so whatever we do individually is kind of a reflection of what we're all doing and what Matt's vision is. And it's a very specific one, vision-wise, he's talking about. It's a bit more of a throwback to the DC, as in Detective Comics.
Love to hear that.
Of it all, yeah. So, yeah, I have a not so hot take, and then people go, really? There's no way. And okay, and I put this on Twitter, the Batman will be the most grounded, gritty, street level Batman movie we've seen to date. It's going to be constructed different than any Batman movie we've seen. It's going to, the narrative is going to be, the whole thing is going to be different. And people go, oh, there's no way it can be more grounded than the Nolan films. I was like, yes, sir. Just wait and see. It sure can be a lot more grounded. You got a Batman, a Bruce Wayne who's building a Batmobile out of a muscle car. He's got some, thrown together Batcave, and no, exactly. You're not going to get the Bat or the Tumbler from
even elements
Lucius
of the Nolan
Fox.
trilogy. Nolan kind of played with certain elements, the Lazarus Pit, the Pit, Ra's al Ghul returning. Like there were certain things that Nolan played on that he did in his way, but it made it seem realistic. But I mean, when you say more realistic than Nolan, that really has me thinking, like, what is this going to be like? Because,
street
when
level,
the trilogy came out,
gritty,
it was
detective.
realism. Everyone talks about realism.
Detective,
That's what I'm really looking at.
mystery, police, procedural type, I mean, just right down.
We never
to
really
it.
have seen that in a Batman movie. We've seen him do things. There's the fingerprint on the bullet. In BVS, he experiments with the kryptonite and stuff. Like you see him trying to do certain Batman things. In '89, he figures out the chemical compounds for the Joker formula, right? You see him do certain but we never really see him as the detective. We never see him investigating a crime. Again, like you saw bits at Dark Knight, Harvey Dent's dead, right? The two cops, you saw a little bit of that, but then again, it plays into the thumbprint and the bullet. So to see a whole movie where he's essentially, is a detective, and this is could this kind of be a buddy cop film in a way?
I would
if
say
they're both
yes.
Gordon and Batman are detectives,
not in a
not in a traditional
Bad
sense.
Boys or what am I, the ones that Lethal Weapon where it's there's humor and injected into it. I don't think there's going to be much. I think there'll be some levity. Yeah,
like you get what I'm
exactly.
saying. Right?
Yeah, I've got you.
And also going back to Wright not mentioning Dano could just be the simple fact that he didn't work with him on set.
Sure.
Would Gordon and the Riddler? Do you expect them to really have scenes together? Not really, but I can see, like he mentioned,
Dano may not have a lot of scenes with anybody that's in the cast.
Well, again, I mentioned Batman and Robin a few times on the show, but if you listen to like the commentary and like the behind the scenes stuff, Chris O'Donnell did tons of scenes with Mr. Freeze. He never once shot with Arnold. Mm-hmm. So and you hear that and you're like, oh wow, that's an interesting like tricks of Hollywood, the illusion of the camera. So it could be Gordon and somebody. Maybe it's a stunt scene, so it's not really Dano in the suit. You don't know. He probably never worked a day with him. That's why he never mentioned him. And
to be fair, he has in previous comments about the Batman, he has mentioned Dano doing fantastic work. So but yeah, I mean, I just think it's going to be just it's going to, and some people. I think people who go in to seeing, the typical superhero movie and how it's constructed, even with Batman, even with some of the Dark Knight stuff, the Dark Knight trilogy films, this is just going to be much more street level, and not
a lot of people compare it to Seven, so maybe it's kind of like that type of buddy cop film. I don't know. Seven has been speculated to have a lot of influence on this movie. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens. But I would, I don't agree with like the whole criticism that this is Batman Begins Part 2.
No, it's not. Absolutely not.
Yes, there are similarities. He's a younger Batman. He's learning to be Batman. But this seems to be totally different than Batman Begins. In my mind,
completely. Yeah.
I mean, for crying out loud,
the only thing they have in common,
he's wearing combat pants. Like he's wearing actual pants.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying about the realism aspect of it. I mean, people go, oh, the suit. Look at. I mean, it's not. It was made to look like that. It was made to look like something literally that Bruce Wayne put together. The stitching on the cowl, the leather cowl, and you can see the stitching on it. You know,
to me, that is a fantastic homage to 66. And I know
there's got to be a little bit of that. Yes.
Well, he says it like 66 is one of his favorite versions. You know, how many pictures of 66 has Reeves teased us throughout the years and have, you know, it's like, oh, well, that's a hint. That's a clue. So you could see the love, and I'm sure, you know, 66 isn't the only thing he loves. I'm sure he loves him some Bermejo Batman. That's clear, right?
Bermejo was Lee's Batman is absolutely 100%. I know an inspiration for what we got with in the Batman.
So I'm interested to see, and if it's like how, when you say it's grounded, again, I keep coming back to that, but it's so fascinating to me, like how much more realistic, because like when I saw the trilogy and everyone talks about how the realism works and how it connected with them, that gets me excited because like, okay, if people can really relate to this, then this could be a good thing. You know, you're talking about a guy who's
that's what it is about Batman.
He's building his car, he's building his cave. We're going to see Batman build the Batcave. We never really saw that in the
Nolan there's movie. I'll give you another little piece to the puzzle, is that Mattson Tomlin, who helped write the Batman script but is not getting a credit for some reason, and probably it'll be a screenwriters guild, you know, it's got to be a certain amount of whatever, but anyway, you know, he's doing this DC comic graphic novel thing about Batman, and God, what is the dadgum name of it right off the bat? Batman something. Wow. Anyway, do you know about this, right?
No, it's the first time hearing it.
Okay. The whole premise is, what if Batman was real? What if it was real? Mm-hmm. And you look at the artwork, Lee, even if you look on it's on Batman on Film. I mean, Lee Bermejo did a variant cover, and even the suit. I mean, it's reminiscent of Lee's, you know, his own take on Batman, but it's also it looks again like something that Bruce Wayne put together, because he's not going to, you know, Wayne Technology, Wayne Enterprises, and
no, he's going to the Army Navy store.
You know, it's padded up more than. I'll find that here somewhere. Where is it?
That stuff's interesting to me because, you know, it's just, you know, somebody else's vision and what he has.
And so
it's funny. Matt Reeves pictures Batman. You know, you get a real good look inside someone's head. Like, we know how Burton interprets him. We know how Schumacher does. We know how Snyder does. We know how Nolan does. Hell, we know how David Ayer interprets Batman. It's interesting to see how these guys see this iconic hero, you know, translated, and that's really fun for me, because I don't know anything about this. I know what the Snyderverse Batman aesthetically looks like. I know that world. I know all these other worlds. I don't know anything about this. I don't even know if this movie is going to be good, but I'm just excited for it. You know, like it's something new and fresh, and I can always revisit the old classics that I love. But like, to keep it adds to the legacy and the legend and the history of this character, because he just keeps to push through. You know, how many times do you see people complaining, "Oh, another Batman movie, another Spider-Man movie"? Well, yeah, no kidding, bro. Batman's been around for 80 years. You think he's going away? This isn't Blockbuster Video. Like, Batman's here to stay. You know, Toys R Us has come and gone. Batman hasn't left us. You know, like. Yeah, he's a staple. He's as American as apple pie.
Whoever says another Batman movie, they all go see it. So it just, you know, it's okay. It's called Batman the Imposter, and DC announced it back last month, the 14th of July. I got the press release. Mattson Tomlin is the writer, and let's see. He has a quote: "As a lifelong Batman fan, putting my spin on Gotham City has been a dream come true. Taking the question of what if Batman was real as far narratively possible conjured incredible potential that hasn't recently been explored in the comics." So when I saw it and I went and I saw the artwork, I went, golly, this looks like flipping Pattinson's suit. So I asked some people who would know. Hey, is this? But the first thing I thought was, did they not announce it? But is this going to be a tie-in to the Batman? Because it comes out, and it comes out on February 22nd of next year, which will be about 2 weeks before a week and a half, whatever, 2 weeks before the Batman comes out. And I was told it's not a direct connection. It's not a tie-in, but with Mattson doing the writing and the artwork, and Mattson having been involved with the Batman.
So would you compare it to that animation movie that came out between Begins and Dark Knight, where like it's not supposed to be, but it kind of is, and if you want it to be, it's a part of that universe. What was that called?
That was Batman Dark Knights.
Gotham Knights, I thought. Is that anthology?
Gotham Knights.
It's kind of like that. Yeah.
Well, that was was a direct tie-in to the Dark Knight trilogy. That was supposed to be part of that continuity. Emma Thomas produced the dadgum thing.
Oh, I didn't know she did. Okay.
Yeah.
So it did have some Nolan influence. All right.
Yes. Yeah.
I know they tried to spin it that way.
And it was.
Hey, I mean, it was cool to see Deadshot in that world.
Yeah. So So I thought that, and I asked. That's what the answer was. No, it's not a direct tie-in, but it's going to give. It's very much what the Batman is going for as well. Mm-hmm. This what if Batman is real? I know no one always said keep it realistic, but it's not really when you talk about and also call it hyper realism. I mean, you got the planes. I mean, there's just there was still crazy superhero type stuff done, in the Dark Knight trilogy films. I mean, Batman
flying on rooftops.
When Batman goes to Hong Kong and captures Lao. I mean, stuff. Come on.
There's a lot of superhero, especially in Rises. There's a lot of superhero elements in the trilogy that kind of get overlooked at the time because of the realism. But well done. It was just three well-made movies.
So to finish up, basically, then Wright says that he's anxious for people to see the movie, and it was tough with the COVID, and they had to stop, and they came back in September. He said, basically they did it. He said that he thinks they've made something. Let me get this right quote so I get him quote. He says, "I loved it. I loved the script, and I loved what we were doing." And he said, "I didn't like the circumstances. They were challenging once we shut down. It was tricky getting back to work, being isolated, blah, blah, blah." He said, "But we made, I think, a brilliant film. A brilliant film."
I take a lot of these with grains of salt now, because I do not believe that any actor takes a gig in a movie or a TV show thinking it's going to suck. I think they all take these roles thinking we've got a huge hit on our hands. And going back to BVS, I remember Affleck being interviewed, and this isn't Daredevil. The script's really good. Yeah. This is going to be a great movie. We're all really excited about it, and it kind of it did what it did. So again, like, I'm sure he's very confident in his work.
Yeah,
I'm sure he's confident in the dailies. But again, I don't know if this movie could bomb. This movie could be horrible. We could not like it. There's a possibility for that. Yeah. Do I think it's going to be that way? No. Do I think it's going to be good? Yeah. Do I know? I have no idea. Do I hope it's great? 100%. But I don't think any of these guys ever say these statements thinking the movie's going to stink. I think everyone's always usually very confident in their work. Unless
everyone I know, everyone I know that knows a little bit about it, thinks it's a game changer. It's a game changer for the genre.
I hope so, because you hear stories. Warner Brothers loved the dailies of Batman and Robin in '97. So
or they're always when they do the screening, they're always giving the execs are giving standing ovations to every one of these films, right?
Hey, look, I bought that one hook, line, and sinker. I did. I'm like a lot of people in this space. I tend to be very honest, and if, like the other day, Umberto tweeted out that he's tweeted out a little nugget saying that Batfleck will suit up in the Flash movie, and hey, I was wrong. I thought it would be Bruce Wayne only cameo, but I'll admit it.
Oh, it was. Yeah, it would. I mean, that's what it was supposed to be. It's changed, as a,
which has me a little worried for that movie. Like, And look, I know this. I know Todd Phillips basically rewrote Joker on set, but that still kind of gets me a little nervous, right? Like, you know, you kind of want to have things done before the deadline.
I
don't
don't
know how the movie business works. I've never
I
been
will
on a movie
say,
set.
yeah, I don't think there's going to be like hell. Affleck hasn't even done anything for the film yet. He goes in September.
Don't work from what I've heard.
Yeah,
There's been a stunt Batman
and
running around.
that's, you know, they're getting to the point now. They're getting close. They're closer to the end of filming than they are the beginning. So, I
got a
think,
hot take on that movie. I think that movie is going to end up being more controversial than BVS, and not in terms of quality of the movie, but just what the plot lines of
changes.
the movie, what it changes, who's written out of continuity, what's what. I think this movie is going to burn Twitter down.
Isn't that going to be awesome?
I don't know. I like how many people want to watch the world burn? I'm like, man, can we just get along? I don't know. It's just, especially yesterday, everyone's fighting on Twitter.
I think you're right, because it's going to change things.
Oh,
it's going to change things.
And all I know is rumors, and if any of these rumors are true,
even though Warner Brothers, I mean, even the ones that are connected are just not. They're not Marvel MCU connected. They are, you know what I'm saying. We've talked about this several times on this show, Pete. They are just making movies and then whatever. But some of them will, you know, have a connection technically.
Those MCU are
overtly connected.
That's one story, in my opinion. That whole franchise.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Chapter one ended with
it's like the Dark Knight trilogy, except it's got multiple films and multiple different characters, you know, and multiple different parts to it. It's certainly not 3 films like a trilogy, but yes.
I don't know how Feige does it, man. Like that guy's brain, his OCD must be insane because he's got all that stuff in order.
Yeah.
I don't know how that man does it. To be brutally honest, like there's one thing about being, again, I don't know the movie industry and I'm pretending like I do. I'm a fan, so I know what I know, and that's nothing. It's one thing to produce a movie. It's a totally other thing to produce, I don't know, 5 films a year and a total of 20 over. Like it just seems like a lot of work to me. Like I don't know how he does it. Like just, you know, and again, like you hear everything that's going on with ScarJo. And how she's a little upset about her money, but they were like, this movie has to come out before this because then it ruins everything, continuity. And it's like, for the first time, I feel like you kind of see the MCU struggle a little bit because they're like, oh man, we got to get these stories out there because, you know, eventually at some point you're going to have prequels and all that other stuff. And it just gets too confusing, I guess.
There are some really good things that comes with an MCU type of shared universe where they are like, when I say connected, I mean it's in capital letters and bold and underlined, and it's set up chronologically, and just like you talked about, have to come out here and come out now, and it's going to come out before this or after that. But there's also a lot of just for me, I just, even if I don't like a filmmaker's approach, Tim Burton Batman Returns example, I'm not a big fan of that, but I'd rather that personally. I'd rather that than okay, we're gonna bring that director in, but this is a producer driven deal, and it's got to be this, and
it's television.
There's not really room for that. It's not a lot of room for that.
It's kind of like television, to be honest. Like Feige's show, you know.
Sure. Yeah. 100%.
Berlanti does it on a lower level.
So there's some Gordon talk with a few tangents, but we kept that pretty tight there for the most part. You seen Long Halloween yet?
No, I haven't. Now I'm just doing it to spite Lauer.
Okay. So you're gonna wait till the deluxe version comes out, or are you gonna watch back to back part 1 and 2?
Am I going to? To be honest, I don't know how I'm gonna watch it, but right now I'm just doing it to spite Lauer.
Okay. All right.
I'll watch it at some point. I mean, that could be tomorrow, or it could be when the deluxe edition happens. But yeah, like now I'm just doing it to kind of.
Okay. So, real quick before we leave, I did an article about, and kind of inspired by the fact that Long Halloween 2 came out and completed that movie, and I'm counting it as one movie, just like Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
And I thought, there were basically, there's been 7 comic book stories that were adapted. I know that a lot of them are, you've got, I mean, everything is, all the Batman movies are based on the comic books, but you know what I mean? Hush, Dark Knight Returns, Year One, the Long Halloween, of course, now, The Killing
Did you include
Joke.
Flashpoint?
I did not include Flashpoint because it was more of a
I think you got to include
DC
Flashpoint.
movie, and not as, even though Thomas Wayne's the main character, I didn't count anything that was Justice League-ish or Superman,
Right.
Batman, or anything like that. So I was going to see Gotham by Gaslight, Under the Red Hood, Year One, Dark Knight, Long Halloween, of course, blah, blah, blah. So of those, you got any like rankings or hot take on those 6? If you exclude, a lot of people said I should put in the Batman Teenage versus Teenage Ninja Turtles because it was based on a comic book, but I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's on that level. I actually don't.
I
really
did not
know
include
much.
that. I did not include that as a.
I'm looking at your ranking here, and it's. I mean, Dark Knight Returns is number 1 for me, obviously excluding Long Halloween.
Okay.
Then I go Under the Red Hood at 2. Then I would probably put. I'd put Hush at 3, Year One, Gaslight, and then Killing Joke.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of that
close.
Hush movie. I like Hush. I do.
I'll say this. I don't.
I know you think it's the most overrated thing to ever put on a cowl, but I really do. The way that storyline changed comic books for a good decade is really impressive to me, and as well as just Loeb juggling an ensemble.
I don't think there's been, even with, I know The Killing Joke gets it gets shit on, and I'm like, okay.
I like the Killing Joke movie. I'm sorry.
I'm like, it's the book. I mean, you take out the Batgirl Batman situation,
And that's
at
nothing
the beginning.
new because Tim put them together in the animated series. So like, this is not new to Batman. I mean, it's just, I get it. It's not my favorite thing, but I don't mind the prequel. Like,
But you take out that prequel, if you want to call it that. That movie's the book.
Yeah.
It's Alan Moore's book. So I don't
like Dark Knight Returns, Year One, panel for panel. Like it's, yeah.
And I'm one who I like the inspired by way they did, Hush, Gotham by Gaslight, and the Long Halloween. I like that, even though I think The Dark Knight Returns is fantastic, even though the director of that film canceled me and took my Bat fan card away from me. I still
got mine. Sorry, Bill.
Yeah, I don't count as a Batman fan
Sorry,
anymore.
Jett.
Apparently, I guess. So I don't think there's
What's
been a bad
interesting to me
movie.
is though,
yeah,
when interpreting The Killing Joke, and I was talking to BOF alum Justin Kowalski about this, it's interesting how some people interpret certain things. Like when the Joker in the book is not yelling, but he's like, "Why aren't you laughing?" Like Justin was telling me, he's like, I read that as he was kind of like upset and almost like distraught. Batman wasn't laughing at the joke, whereas in the movie, Hamill's like screaming, and I was like, "Oh wow, that's interesting. I never thought of that." So it's cool when you hear other people's perspectives on certain things about books and everything. But you're right, like Killing Joke is just, it's page for page. Like
because I think I wrote
like
my
it.
review that
It doesn't bother
when
me
I
at
saw
all.
it, I went to see it at the
I saw it in theaters.
on the big screen at the what's that the one that
theater.
puts on those events. Yeah, the company that does that. I want to
Fathom
give them
Events.
credit. Yes, okay. And I was like, okay, because I'm not the biggest fan of The Killing Joke. I would, I'm kind of like Alan Moore hates it. He wrote it.
Alan Moore hates everything he does.
And
he hates everything that people interpret. That he
I
does.
don't hate it. I just thought it was not. I know it's up there as a classic, but I just didn't hit me when I read it. I read it back in the day, but
Did you read it when it came out?
Yes. Yeah.
So you have the original issues, or
I do.
You have the original issue.
I had the original issue. I do.
I forget what they call it. It was like prestige format or something. It's like it comes in that. It's that fancy little trade paperback thing.
I have of those going back to the 80s like that. Those graphic novels.
Mm-hmm.
I think The Killing Joke is the first one. I don't have the originals of The Dark Knight Returns, unfortunately.
I recently did a show with
I do have.
Lauer.
I got Gotham by Gaslight, the original version of Gotham by Gaslight.
I did a show with Lauer, and it was me, him, and Justin, and we were doing The Killing Joke. And I've gone on kind of like a binge of buying the different, I guess, volumes of Killing Joke throughout the years. So I've got or printings. I'm sorry, that's the proper term. So I've got like the first printing, I've got the 6th printing, the 5th printing, the 3rd printing, and the most recent deluxe edition in the black. So it's kind of like, it's a book that like I have an absolute edition as well. It's just an absolutely interesting story to me. Boland's artwork is captivating, even though I can't stand his Batmobile. I don't like the bubble car. It looks like a bad take on the Ford Future. Future. Was it Ford or I forget who makes it. Who made it?
That was a Ford, right?
It was a Ford. It was a Ford concept car. I think it was. I can't remember. It was an American car. I
like that big bat head on the front of it, though. I always
it's interesting.
I was always a
it's not
fan of that.
Personal thing. I don't like the bubble car. It's weird. It looks so awkward to me, even though it's got that big Schumacher fin. But or it's Barbara Ling, I guess. But it's very interesting to me, and just the psychological aspect. And again, like, you know, the first telling of a Joker origin, for me as a young reader, that was something special. But now I've kind of grown to realize, like, the less you know about these villains, the better.
I will. If I'm doing a list of classic Batman stories, I would put The Killing Joke in there, even though I don't personally enjoy it as much. I don't hate it at all. I think, you know, it didn't blow me away. I wouldn't. I don't want to get into Hush, but
I want to get in. I want to get in a Hush talk with you. I want to reread that book and then watch that movie.
We'll do that. We'll do it on Social Hour. I will. Fresh. Let's see what I was going. My point I was getting at. Oh, I tell you one that a lot of people put up there as classic, and I just never got it, and I would say it's not, is Arkham Asylum.
I don't dig it. I don't get it. And here's the thing: a lot of it's Morrison. He drives me crazy because I read somewhere, I forget where it was, but like supposedly Morrison like trips on LSD to write all his books.
Oh my God!
I'm like, well, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Really underrated storyline that I don't think anyone really talks about other than me is Bruce Wayne Murderer and Bruce Wayne Fugitive.
Good one.
Fabulous storytelling.
Yeah.
Wonderful artwork. It's different. It's a little more, let's say, cartoony, comic booky artwork, but it's still great. I love Sasha Bordeaux. I wish that character would return. She's one of my favorite Batman side characters. You know me, I love these obscure Batman side. Harold, Sasha Bordeaux.
I will have people will email me every so often and say, hey, I've read Year One, I've read the Long Halloween, I've read The Dark Knight Returns. What's some I should read that are underrated or off the radar or a combination? And I'll go Year 100. Read Year 100. It gets a lot of praise, but I still think it's still underrated. Is the Matt Wagner's Dark Moon Rising? Those, you know, Batman the Monster Man,
Monster Man and the Mad Monk,
Mad Monk, and Batman Ego. You know, we've been talking a lot about Batman Ego because of the Batman. It's a big influence on Matt Reeves. A lot of people. I turned my son Micah onto Ego, and he was on Lauer's show.
When people come to me for recommendations, and they always the Dark Knight Returns always comes up, and I tell them not to read it, and it's always because like they're new readers, and I'm like, don't read Dark Knight Returns your first going out. Read your because Dark Knight Returns is a it's like you don't want to read Watchmen or Dark Knight Returns first because it's a deconstruction of what characters are. So therefore you don't really get it until you read, or it's not as satisfying, I'll say, until you read a certain amount of Batman history before that, because Dark Knight history just totally breaks him down and rebuilds him. It's basically he's basically in the military. He's broken down, he's brought back up. Yeah. So like I always say start with Year One because it's the beginning and it's a very easy read. Even for people who don't really dig comic books, like there's not a whole lot of exposition.
Oh, Year One's an easy read, man.
It's very easy. It's very fluid. So I always start off with Year One because I start at the begining. Like there's a reason why everyone knows Batman.
And that's a classic. That's a go-to. I'm talking about the under the radar, but yeah, I'm with you. The other one I was going to bring up was The Man Who Laughs, which is kind of sort of sequel to Year One, you know. And there's just we'll have to do a show on I don't want to call it obscure, but off the radar, not the go-to comics that are classics or graphic
War
novels
Drums and War
collected.
Games. I love that. That's a great one. That's long. That'll entertain you for a long time. I'm trying to think. I'm looking at my bookshelf here. I have so many things. I don't have many trades anymore. I buy a lot of issues. Son of the Demon. That's a good one. I don't know if a lot of younger readers have read that. Son of the Demon. That whole Bar Demon trilogy.
Gotham by Gaslight. That's a classic Batman story, right? You put it up on the list of classic Batman stories. That
100%.
Okay.
Also, the Neil Adams.
Go ahead.
The 3 volumes of Batman illustrated by Neil Adams, I think is highly. I know it's not. They're not all totally connected stories. It's basically like a highlight reel of Neil Adams' work, but I think that's essential reading for anyone.
I would say also, there's so much. It's just popping into my mind now. What about the Red Rain, Batman, Dracula, all that, Elseworlds?
That's cool. I'm not a huge Elseworlds
classic.
fan. There's certain.
Is that a classic, or is that a little bit off? A little bit.
I'm not the one to judge because I don't dig
yeah.
it. Elseworlds to me, there's very few Elseworlds tales that I really enjoy. So it's Gotham by Gaslight is one of them, but I find myself not really digging the Elseworlds tale. They just seems too, and I know that's the whole point of them. They're supposed to be out there. They're supposed to be really different takes on our classic characters, but it's just not for me.
Gaslight's my favorite. It's one of my favorite Batman stories, period. Comic book stories.
I consider Batman Returns to be in Elseworld.
There you go. So you do like Elseworlds then? Okay.
Certain things.
Okay, I'm getting off. I can just see my mind right now is going off and off so many tangents inside my head that.
Any of them involve gumbo?
It's too hot for gumbo. Too hot, sir.
There you go. Too hot for gumbo.
It is too hot. Now you brought up weather. Kind of when you mentioned gumbo, and I said it's too hot for gumbo.
Too hot in that Texas heat. Pew pew.
We had a stretch. We're hitting those hundreds now. August is coming, and then I'm not going to complain. The last 2 days and through tomorrow, it's not even getting out of the 80s.
Wow.
Not even getting out of the 80s. And then come the weekend, 98, 99, 100, 101. Coming right back at you.
Sounds like perfect training camp weather.
Just as there, and this is what always reminds me of going back and starting football season as a coach, because football practice has started. I saw the high school down the road from me. The kids were out there practicing this morning, and how hot it is in August in Texas, and you're out there on that field practicing.
Did you live through that whole Bear Bryant era where you don't drink water, man up?
I played in that era.
Yeah.
I played in the end. I played in the end of that era, which I graduated in '84. So I played a high school football sophomore. So 82 through 81, 82, 83 seasons played high school football, and we got a water break at halfway through practice.
How long was practice?
2 hours.
Okay.
And we get a water break. We could have all the water we wanted at the end, but there weren't trainers constantly, watering us down.
Now, looking back on it, did you, knowing what you know as a coach now, as opposed to being a player back then, do you remember things where that kid should have had some extra water. That kid needed a
sure. Yeah.
Okay. Now,
I mean,
you just, as a kid, you're just doing what you're told, right? I'm just curious.
Yeah. And by the time I got out of college and I started coaching, things had started changing by then. So I started coaching. My first year coaching was in '89, and now, there's water, and it should be. You can hydrate the whole time you're practicing football.
You're wearing 40 pounds of riot gear.
Yeah, you've got those coolers that that are that you can spray water. You know, you see them, the trainers carry them around
Yeah.
their own wheels. There's like a big igloo full of ice and water, and they've got those spigots on there, and you just hit it. I mean, they're everywhere, and you can get water I don't know how people didn't fall out from heat stroke or heat exhaustion
Well, especially
as
kids,
much back
like, just,
then.
I mean,
and then we
you know,
see
a lot
that,
of these
you
players
know.
have indoor facilities. Pro teams, college teams have indoor
Yeah.
facilities, right? I mean, even back then they probably
Yeah.
didn't. But you know, I can't imagine, especially Texas Heat. You're mentioning it now.
Oh,
can't
dude, I
imagine
had
what it must have been like
the
back in the
last,
day.
you know, at least the last 15, maybe 20, at least I coached 30 years. So 20, I mean, at least 15 to 20 years. I mean, I had to get CPR trained. I had to get heat exhaustion trained. I had to get lightning strike trained to be able to,
Now, were
you
those
know, when the hell get off the
yearly
field.
certifications, or you have to do it like every 2 years?
Yeah, every year, every year. You know, I go. You know, coaches would go back to work early, and that's one of the first things we do is get all that. You know, first aid, CPR. You know, the weather. I mean, I talk about weather, but I mean literally, like, okay, know when to get your damn team off the field if there's a freaking thunderstorm. You know, because I mean, there's been coaches and kids hit by lightning, out there, and
That's
all
crazy.
that. So it's so much smarter.
What did you coach?
Football.
You look like I mean, yeah, obviously.
Oh,
I meant
what
was your
position
coach-
did I coach?
Yeah,
Okay, I
were you
was an
defensive
off
coordinator?
by trade. My primary thing was offensive line coach, and but I was also I could coach every position, offense or defense, but I was an offensive minded person, and offensive line was my baby. Kind of what I
You
hung
love
my
my
hat
cousins,
on.
PJ and David. They're monstrous. PJ played. He was a lineman at Bucknell, and I forget where David played. But oh man, huge, just monstrous human beings.
So that's
Just linemen.
That's that was my favorite, and I called offenses and stuff. I was always an offensive minded person. The thing about I'm getting on a tangent, Pete. With offensive line, it all starts there. And I remember even playing. I knew what every person did on the field. You know, I knew what receivers did. I knew what I knew the quarterback steps.
So you weren't a Steve Spurrier. You weren't one dimensional. You didn't have Greg Williams as your defensive head coach.
No. So I knew. So it was easier to branch out, to be able to coach other things, to call plays, to be able to read defenses and stuff like that as an offensive coordinator. Starting with that offensive line, because it's kind of like that's where it all begins right there. So
Yep.
I could do a whole show on this stuff.
I want people to see the other side of Bill Ramey.
Yeah,
I
used to
want
coach my ass
people
off.
to
This and I thought about this
real
morning
job.
because I did see those. I got up. And I'll just tell you this is like regular. This is life stuff. I did an order at the grocery store last night, and I
What do you mean you did an order?
Did it online. Went online and picked out my stuff and went to the pickup line.
Wow. I love the grocery store. I love shopping.
I like going to the grocery store, but there's some things I needed for today that I just wanted to go get it. So I did that. I had to. It was, my window was 7 to 8, so I got there. So I'm coming back, and I see those kids, and I started thinking, this reminds me. Coach, this is one of the times I miss it is when the practices start again, and those kids are out there. Those high school kids were practicing this morning, and I just in my mind I thought, I miss it. I don't miss it that much. I do enjoy.
You miss coaching. You don't miss teaching.
I don't. Sometimes I like. I enjoyed teaching history, so I did enjoy teaching history. I miss the coaching. There's a lot of things about coaching football, especially in Texas. Football season gets here. And if you're a high school football
Accurate interpretation.
What's
or is
that?
It more like Friday. What's more accurate, Varsity Blues or Friday Night Lights?
The movie Friday Night Lights.
Yeah, I never saw
movie.
Like, what's a more the movie
Yeah.
Friday Night Lights is more accurate of?
That's based on a real Texas high school team.
I did not know.
Permian. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I love
the
varsity.
writer. The writer spent that spent a season with Odessa Permian back, I don't know, whenever, late 80s or something, and came out with that book. And
I didn't know it
that's
was a Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it sure is. Friday Night Lights is pretty damn accurate. So, but I mean, you're coaching football in Texas at high school. You're working 12, 16-hour days, 7 days a week from August till could be even if you make a playoff run and be into December. So,
And what were the age? These kids? They weren't high school kids. They were what, middle school?
I coached both. So, depend.
Okay.
You know, I did
You ever
high
have a kid
school.
go to like a big name program?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some. Do I have anybody still playing in the NFL right now?
Oh, so you got kids who got drafted? Or
I
were
got
pro?
kids who I had kids who got drafted. Yeah,
Oh, that's great.
I'm trying to, but I don't know if they're still in the league. Golly, a lot of them play college.
The lifespan of an NFL player who's not Tom Brady is very short. It's like a 5-year
The average,
window.
yeah. If that, you're lucky. You're lucky if you can you play long enough to get your pension. You know, of all the players that play, of all the players who play in the NFL, very few of them go long enough to get that. I think, was it 4 or 5 years you got to get an NFL pension? It's not always happening.
I would imagine a lot of them tough it out.
Yeah,
You know,
because
I would.
hell, it ain't up to, unless you're great. It ain't up to you. You know,
That's
it ain't up
that's
to
the
you.
truth. I'm sure there's
You
a lot
can't
of
just
guys with a
keep-
practice
yeah.
squad trying to get to
Absolutely.
that pension.
All right, plug some stuff.
You can find me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Zack Snyder's favorite Vero at Pete Illustrated. Follow podcast number 1, Straight Outta Gotham, straight_O_G. I co-host that with the champion of Long Island. We have a new show that dropped this week. Check that out, episode 47. Also, check out Italians for Spidey on Twitter, the Italian Spider-Man Podcast Coalition. Me, Nico Caruso, his father, Nick Caruso. We just recently had an episode that did drop this week about the 7 live-action Spider-Man scores and the latest Nick Spencer arc in Amazing, the Chameleon Conspiracy. Don't forget about Team Yellow Oval on Twitter, at Team Yellow Oval. We are still celebrating the return of Keaton and the Yellow Oval to the silver screen for the first time since 1995. And just check out the Straight Outta Gotham Facebook page, Facebook group. Buy a t-shirt, support us, please. Check out all of our great stuff, all of our content. And Bill, take it away.
Just
Check
go
me
to
out on
Batman
Batman
on
on Film, too.
Yeah, you are on Batman on Film. Go to Batman on Film. You'll find my Twitter. You'll find the links
We're all there.
to T Public. You'll find my Twitter. You'll find Instagram. You'll find the Facebook stuff. So I'm not gonna go through a whole spiel. So that for Pete, I'm Bill. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Batman on Film Social Hour, Jett's official BOF podcast and vlog. Follow Jett on Twitter at Batman on Film. For BOF news only on Twitter, follow at the Batman on Film. For Jett and everyone at BOF, I'm announcer Rachel. Authoritative, definitive, the original Batman on Film.